May 5th, 1945. The war in Europe is collapsing under its own weight. Cities have fallen silent, armies are dissolving, and the Third Reich has only hours left to breathe. And yet, high in the Austrian Alps, something unfolds that no propaganda machine, no historian, and no soldier on either side could have imagined. Inside a medieval stone fortress called Castle Itter, American GIs and German Wehrmacht soldiers stand shoulder to shoulder, rifles raised, preparing to fight the SS together. This strange alliance, so impossible, so out of place in the brutality of 1945, became the only battle of the entire war where Americans and Germans fought as allies. Even the men who survived it later wondered if they had dreamed it. To understand Castle Itter, you have to picture where it sits. A chunk of ancient grey stone perched in the Tyrolean mountains, looking down over narrow valleys and dense forests. Mist clings to the ridgeline. The air feels older than the war surrounding it. During the later years of the conflict, the Nazis used this isolated fortress as a prison, but not just any prison. Inside its thick stone walls were some of France's most important political prisoners, former prime ministers, high-ranking generals, resistance heroes, and even a widely admired tennis champion. These were valuable hostages, leverage for a regime running out of time. Outside the castle, chaos was tightening. By the spring of 1945, the German army was essentially dissolving. Units surrendered in clusters, officers abandoned their posts. Radio lines failed, orders lost meaning. And around Castle Itter, retreating SS units, angry, fanatical, and completely unrestrained, wandered the region. Everyone inside and outside the castle knew the stakes. If the SS reached the prisoners before the Allies did, the French dignitaries wouldn't survive the night. The tension felt like a held breath. This is where the story bends reality. Major Josef Gangl, a German officer in the area, had already broken from Nazi fanaticism. He despised the SS. He wanted the war to end. He wanted to protect the civilians in his town. With him remained a small group of Wehrmacht soldiers who no longer fought for Hitler. They fought for survival, for decency. Meanwhile, a handful of American troops from the 23rd Tank Battalion entered the region, including a Sherman tank known as Besotten Jenny. The French prisoners, terrified the SS would arrive first, managed to contact local Austrians who reached Gangl, who in turn reached the Americans. And just like that, an alliance formed that should never have existed. Americans, Germans, and French VIP prisoners agreeing to stand together against an approaching SS assault force. For the first time, uniforms meant nothing. Only intentions mattered. The battle dragged on for hours. The Americans fired from elevated positions. Gangl's German soldiers fought with the precision of men who had nothing left to lose but their own humanity. The French prisoners ran ammunition, tended to the wounded, and even returned fire when defenders became overwhelmed. But the SS kept coming. They climbed terraces, infiltrated the trees, and pushed toward the gate. Besotten Jenny, the lone Sherman, took heavy hits. Its machine gun jammed. Its armor began to blister, and eventually the crew had to abandon it. The defenders retreated deeper into the castle's corridors. Gunfire thundered through stairwells. Doors splintered. Smoke thickened the air until every breath tasted of dust and gunpowder. Then tragedy struck. Major Gangl was killed by a sniper while trying to move a French prisoner to safety. A man who survived years of war died protecting the very people he had once been ordered to guard. And just when the defenders believed they had reached the end, they heard something faint but unmistakable. the rumble of armored vehicles climbing the mountain road. A larger American relief force had arrived. The SS retreated. Castle Itter, against all odds, was saved. When the shooting stopped, the defenders looked at each other in disbelief. Americans shook hands with Germans. French dignitaries embraced soldiers they had known only as enemies. Some laughed out of relief, others cried. Most simply stood still, stunned by the impossibility of what they had just lived through. In a war defined by brutality, ideology, and genocide, the Battle of Castle Itter felt like a glitch in the darkness. A single moment where humanity broke through the machinery of destruction. It doesn't fit neatly into any simple narrative of good versus evil. Instead, it reveals something more complicated. Choices made when the world collapses. People who decide, even in the final hours of the deadliest war in history, to protect each other regardless of nationality, uniform, or past allegiance. That's why this story still echoes today. It reminds us that even in the darkest places, humans can still choose something different, something redemptive. This was Beneath the Record, where forgotten corners of history come back into the light. If you want more stories like this, stories hidden between the pages, subscribe and stay with us. There is still so much buried in the archives.